we have an interesting informal discussion ahead of us. But what I thought I would do is to give you a broad overview of the geopolitical situation for India. And then, after I give my broad overview, we will have our distinguished panelists at podium to talk to us on very specific areas of their research and their activities. So if that is okay, I will start with an overview of India's geopolitical situation. Now, I understand that here on the campus you also study political science, right? So there is always this discussion on whether political science is a science or not. That is never resolved. In my view, it is not a science, it's an art. But let's leave it at that. There is also, in my view, a suggestion that geopolitics and geophysics have something in common. And I believe that. Why? Because they are based on one fundamental concept. It's the concept of flux. Flux means continuous change. And so, our planet, according to the laws of geophysics, our universe, in fact, is in continuous change. Our planet, Earth, is in continuous change. And sometimes, the changes are so dramatic and drastic that the tectonic plates under the Earth move, which cause earthquakes, tsunamis, and other calamities. Now, in geopolitics also, we have seen periods of tectonic changes. For instance, if you look at world history, there have been changes during the Industrial Revolution, the World Wars of 1917 and 1939, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the onset of the Cold War. These were what I would call tectonic changes in geopolitics. The latest tectonic change, in my view, has been the end of the Cold War. When the Soviet Union collapsed, mind you, the Soviet Union was one of the two superpowers of the world, and its sudden collapse around 1991 ended the period of the Cold War, and from then on, there has been a period of transition. Now, Henry Kissinger has written a new book, which is called World Order. And he has argued that the world is at its greatest risk when there is a period of transition. A period of transition where one global leadership is replaced by another set of global leaders. And so, when the dominant power goes into decline and new powers emerge to challenge the hegemon, there is a period of chaos, and we have to brace ourselves for that. And so I think we are living through the kind of transition that Henry Kissinger talked about. And therefore, I think the system that we are going through now is going to undergo a profound change sooner or later. So, how do we describe this period of transition? Since 1991, when the Cold War ended, there has been what is called a unipolar world, a single superpower dominating international affairs, and that superpower is the United States. In an earlier book called Diplomacy, Henry Kissinger had described the US as the most powerful country on earth. And he went beyond that. He said it is the most powerful country ever in the history of the earth. That there has never been as great a power as the United States earlier in history. Now, the US continues to be the most powerful country on earth. And its economy, its GDP, is larger than the other 6 members of the G7, which are the richest economies in the world. It spends close to $600 billion on its defense, and it is the strongest military power on earth. And yet, this multipolar world is not going to last. It is not going to last because the American economy is stagnant. There is a crisis of self-confidence within the US. which is represented by the unexpected election of Mr. Donald Trump as president. Externally, the US is fatigued by a series of wars in the last 2 decades. Wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and other parts of the world. And the United States is more or less in a state of exhaustion, where it does not want to enter into any future conflict. The other development that has taken place is that the center of gravity of geopolitics, which were there in the past 400 years or so, is shifting. Is shifting from the Euro-Atlantic region, that is of Europe and America, to what is called the Indo-Pacific region, which is the situation in which, the region in which we are located. There are many new emerging powers that are challenging the old order of the world. The earlier European superpowers like Germany, UK and France are being challenged by a new set of emerging powers. And among these are China, India, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, and of course a whole host of other countries. Among the emerging powers, China is actually the most powerful and is currently in the process of challenging the hegemony of the United States. So, the next tectonic shift is coming. When exactly it will take place, we do not know. But it's my hunch that it is around the corner. It will probably be certainly within your lifetime. Now, the redistribution of political power has also been accompanied by a new economic order. And this is also an example where the changes are as dramatic as in the field of geopolitics. For example, according to a recent survey that I saw, in 1975, the top 5 economies were: number 1, the United States in 75, with a GDP of $5.5 trillion. Number 2, Japan with 2.3 trillion. Germany with 1.7 trillion. France with 1.3 trillion. And there was a tie in the 5th position between Italy and the UK with 1.1 trillion GDP each. The projection is for 2030, which is not very far off. And for 2030, the projection is, number 1 will be the United States with $23.9 trillion, China with $18.8 trillion, India $7.3 trillion, number 4 Japan with 6.5, and Germany with $4.3 trillion. So you see that in the top 5 of 75, those countries have been replaced by new entrants like India and China. By 2050, it is projected that even the United States will be overtaken by China. So the new economic order by 2050, number 1, China, number 2, United States, number 3, India. So, how is India coping with this transition? Well, India has had its own tectonic shifts in recent history. We have seen 200 years of Mughal rule, followed by 2 centuries of colonial domination, and finally, independence in 1947, after a long struggle for freedom. So, it will be relevant for our discussion to focus not on the history of the past, but on the contemporary geopolitical situation, which is the topic for this morning. So, what I propose to do is what the French call a tour d'azimut. That means a 360 degrees survey of the situation around us, so that we look at the east, west, north and south of India and see how we are placed geopolitically. Well, it's a fact that there are major conflicts going on throughout the world. But if you look at India's situation, broadly, the areas in the north of India, that is Central Asia, Russia, Europe and North America, this area is largely peaceful. But the areas to the east and west of India are full of conflict. It is to the west that we see violent conflicts raging. In Afghanistan, to Iraq, in Yemen and Syria, actively conflicts are going on as we speak now. And the territories to the east, east of the Brahmaputra, right across to the shores of the Pacific Ocean, they have been relatively peaceful, but we see conflicts coming up, and one day they might erupt into major conflicts, and we can see wars taking place here. So how has India managed to insulate itself from these global conflicts? Let's take it region by region. Let's start with the West Asia. There have been major changes in the power structures in West Asia in the past 2 decades. And the most remarkable change has been what happened after December 2010, when the Arab Spring started, first in Tunisia, and then spread to other areas of the Arab world. It was called an Arab Spring, but when we look at the situation now, it has actually turned into a long, hot Arab summer. The spring is gone. The students who demonstrated at Tahrir Square in 2011 to bring in democracy to Egypt, and we thought it was a revolution in the making. Sadly, what has happened is one dictatorial regime has now been substituted by another. Hosni Mubarak, who ruled Egypt with an iron hand, was overthrown. And yesterday, he was just released from prison as a free man. But in his place, there is a new dictator who was the chief of the Egyptian army. And the best specialists on China were there to talk to us. The message I got was, don't even try. China is 5 times larger than India. Its defense spending is 4 times as large. Even if China is slowing down, its growth is such that India will never be able to catch up with China. So, it will be prudent for us to lie low, not to question China, accept our inferior status, and be in peace. What dismayed me was this sense of defeatism, that we are no match for China, and therefore, we must accept Chinese hegemony. With due respect, I profoundly disagree with our established experts, even within our own government. And I have had discussions with them when I was a part of the system, and I continue to remain a dissident on our line. I think no country, large or small, should be afraid of asserting its national interests. And we should admire the courage of small countries like Cuba or Vietnam, which have stood up to much stronger neighbors and actually have even defeated them on occasions.